The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē.
What I do, why I do, so that way you can kind of be familiar with who I am. So I am a facilitator, as I said, a financial educator, and I am also known as the Debt Demolisher. I have a huge passion for teaching financial literacy, hence the reason why I am here presenting before you all, but also just having that learning experience for myself to realize that not only did I have some things in my finances that I probably wasn't the best at, other people had that same issue, and I want to be able to teach and help people nurture through that same process. So I'm a certified financial education instructor. I have an MBA in financial management, a BS in accounting, and I've been in the accounting profession for over 15 years. So I'm still an accountant to this date. So although I'm teaching on financial education, I also work full-time as an accountant. I am a member of the Personal Finance Speakers Association, as well as the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education. I have personally paid off to this date $355,150.42 of debt within 6 years. So December 31st, 2021 marked my 6-year anniversary of me starting my debt elimination journey, and I'm just super excited to share the tips, the tools, and the tricks that can help you all in that regard as well. But today we're focusing on taxes, and we are focusing on what are some of the strategies maybe that you could begin to implement or that you could begin to consider to lower your tax liability and potentially maximize your refund if you are able to be due one. In terms of credit scores, I've been able to maintain a credit score of over 800 since 2017. My highest score has been 847. Right now, my score is 831, and I'm just continuing to just include those goals and those ideas and those visions that I want not only for my financial life, but to be able to educate other people during the process while doing the same. In terms of savings reserves, I've been able to increase my savings reserve by $19K in 6 months by just implementing a strategy of telling my money where to go and being strategic around the ways in which I receive money, and income taxes is one way of that. Next slide, please. All right, so what we're going to cover today, the objectives. The objectives for today's session is I want to talk to you guys about the benefits of pre-tax dollars, what that looks like and how you can begin to leverage it. What are some of the allowable pre-tax credits and those limits associated with it? Now, granted, we are coming out of tax year 2021. In some instances, we still may be able to contribute some things that could be applicable to 2021, and I'm going to bring that up as we move along, but really focusing on the year that we came out of. So the limits change from year to year. So I may be referencing some things in these slides now. Just know that they are related to tax year 2021 and not necessarily the tax year that we're in right now, which is 2022. All right. Okay. All right. So we're going to roll through these and then I'll open it up for questions. The next thing you want to do is research the tax law changes. I know that the tax law may seem cumbersome. It may seem like a lot. But if you just choose one area to focus on, maybe one line item to look at, just one thing to research, you will be amazed at what you are able to find and how easy it is to really understand. So don't be afraid or feel intimidated by the length of the site that you may go to or the length of the publication that the IRS produces. Just find an area that you can focus on and ask yourself some of these questions. What changed in the tax law between last year and this year? There were a lot of changes, and there are more changes that are coming. I talked about the American Rescue Plan. I talked about the CARES Act. So there were a lot of things that changed the tax law. So you want to just ask yourself those questions. And then looking at the treatments, are there any new tax treatments that you now need to consider? Based on some of the things that I shared today, is there something that you may not have thought of before that you may want to think about considering depending on your situation? And then the last question is, are there any applicable limits that will impact your tax liability? So the limitations comes into where those phase outs happen depending on your adjusted gross income, how much you make, what your tax filing status is. That is where the limitations could come into play. So if you just take the time to mentally prepare yourself for this tax season, even if you have someone doing it, you still want to have some level of insight, some level of knowledge so that you can kind of fact check against the person who's actually preparing your returns. Next slide, please. All right, so another tool that I want to share with you all, the IRS has so many tools that are available at your fingertips. The easiest thing to do is to go to their ITA tool, and that is their interactive tax assistant tool. You can go to this website, it's here on the slide, and just type in what you want to search or what you want to Google, or not really Google, but what you want to search within IRS, and it'll come up. If you have issues where you're not withholding enough throughout the year and you find yourself constantly owing, that could be that you're not withholding enough throughout the year. So how do you determine what your withholding should be? Because of the changes with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, they've eliminated the exemptions. So now there's a change in how you calculate what your withholding should be based on the W-4. And the IRS has a tool that can help you calculate that. It'll walk you through the process. All you have to do is answer the questions, and then they'll give you a suggested amount to say, hey, based on what you've entered, based on what you would like your refund to be, if you want it to be high or low, if you want it to break even, this is what you should report as your W-4 amount. So there's so many tools there, so much access, just right there on IRS's site. It's just a matter of you going in and checking it out and seeing what resources are available to you, because at the end of the day, you as the taxpayer have paid for these systems that they're creating and that they're building to make it a convenience for you. Next slide. So now I want to open it up for questions. If there are any questions that you all have, feel free to drop them in the chat and or unmute yourself, either or. I'm fine either way. So it's just property. So there's a difference between interest on car loans is personal. So the only way that you could potentially do this is if, and this relates to your car expense. So if you purchase a car for your business, then it could potentially be able to be deducted on that side. But for everyday people, if you're just buying a car to buy a car for your own personal needs, no, you cannot deduct interest for that. So I see a question in the chat that says, which schedule was for tuition returns? I missed that part. So if you are paying tuition for, and it's qualified tuition expenses, you would receive a 1098-T in the mail. So whoever you're paying tuition to, either if it's for your child or if it's for you, you should get a 1098-T in the mail that will have in the box what the total qualified tuition, fees, expenses that you paid to that institution. And when you have that 1098-T, you'll bring that to your tax preparer, and the tuition and fees deduction is an adjustment to your income. So if you can only do up to a certain amount. So I think it's $4,000 is the max, but again, it phases out depending on how much you make. So there's kind of caveats to it, but if you know for a fact that you've paid tuition, then you should definitely get a 1098-T in the mail that you would then provide to your tax preparer for them to incorporate those. Okay, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. Hey.